My name is Nomi Carter, and 3 days ago, I opened a box my mother spent her entire life hiding from me. I thought I was prepared for anything. I thought I knew my mother. But the last letter in that box didn't just shatter me. It changed everything I believed about my family, my childhood, and the man I called my father. Let me take you to the moment it started, because the truth didn't just hit me. It ambushed me. My mother passed away 6 months ago. Cancer. Fast. Brutal. The kind of death that arrives like a thief in the night and leaves you with more questions than memories. I thought grief would be the hardest part. I was wrong. Grief was gentle compared to what came next. On the day I found the letters, I was doing something completely ordinary, cleaning her bedroom closet. The kind of mindless task you do when your heart is tired and your brain needs a break from crying. Her clothes still smelled like her lavender lotion and warm laundry. Every time I touched one of her sweaters, I felt a sting behind my eyes. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was looking for something to hold on to. And then my fingers brushed something hidden behind her winter coats. A dusty floral shoebox, taped shut. Not neatly, no, desperately, like someone closed it fast with shaking hands, hoping the truth inside would suffocate. My first thought, old birthday cards, maybe baby photos. My second thought, why hide something under 3 layers of clothes? Unless you don't want it found. My stomach tightened. That's when I realized something. My mother, the most open, gentle woman I'd ever known, had kept something from me on purpose. And that scared me more than anything. I sat on the floor, cross-legged, the shoebox between my knees. The tape cracked like old skin as I peeled it back. Inside, letters. Dozens. Maybe more. Each one addressed to me. Each one written in my mother's looping, steady handwriting. To Naomi, age 7. To Naomi, when you fall in love. To Naomi, when you feel lost. To Naomi, when I'm gone. My throat closed. My hands started shaking. Because that last envelope, that one felt heavy. Like her grief, her fear, her unfinished truth was still trapped inside it. I opened it with trembling fingers. Naomi, my darling daughter, if you are reading this, it means I failed to tell you the truth while I was alive. It also means the danger is no longer just mine. Danger. My mom, the woman who never even broke the speed limit. I wiped my face, but the tears kept coming. I didn't leave because you're father, and I fell out of love. I left because I had to protect you, and I am so sorry for what I'm about to tell you. My heart stopped. What do you mean protect me? I whispered, even though she couldn't hear me. From who? But the letter wasn't done ruining my life. Naomi, if you ever read this, do not trust anyone who tells you they knew your father. Not their stories, not their version, not the funeral. Nothing. My breath hitched because I remembered the funeral. Quiet. Closed casket. Rushed. Too rushed. As a child, I never questioned it. Now I felt stupid for not questioning everything. The next line made the room tilt. Your father isn't dead. I swear I felt the ground shift. No, that wasn't possible. She told me he died of a heart attack when I was little. She cried every anniversary. She kept his wedding ring. She told me he was her first and only love. But the letter kept going, merciless. He is alive. And I spent 29 years running from him. I pressed a hand to my mouth. Sweet, gentle, soft, spoken dad. The man who used to draw cartoons for me. The one who kissed me goodnight. My vision blurred. Why would she run from him? Why lie that he died? Why not tell me? My love, she wrote, you were never supposed to find these letters. But if you have, There is something you must know. Your father isn't the man you remember. He was never who he said he was. And if he ever finds you, he will take everything from you, just like he took it from me. My pulse slammed against my ears. If he ever finds you, finds me, why would he need to find me? Unless he didn't know I existed. The last line of the first page shattered me completely. Naomi, he doesn't know you're his daughter. I couldn't breathe. The floor felt distant, like it was falling away beneath me. My mother hid me from my father, and my father, alive out there, didn't know I existed, which meant if he ever learned, he would want something. Answers. Control. Revenge. But before I could even reach for the second page of the letter, before I could read the rest, I heard a sound behind me. Soft. Slow. A floorboard shifting in the hallway. I froze because I wasn't expecting anyone. And then a voice I hadn't heard in 20 years, a voice I thought belonged to a dead man, whispered, "Naomi, turn around." I didn't turn around at first. I couldn't. My entire body locked up as if my bones suddenly remembered how fear works. That voice of God, it was older, rougher, deeper. But it was his, the man I mourned for 20 years, the man I cried for every Father's Day, the man I believed had died before my childhood even really began. Naomi. The voice came again, closer this time. Please. Look at me. My breath stuttered. My fingers clench around the letter until the paper crumpled. I turned slowly, inch by inch, like my body was moving through water. And then I saw him. A man stood in the doorway, taller than I remembered, more gray in his hair. Lines etched into his face, like he'd lived 100 years in the time he'd been gone. But the eyes, those dark, intelligent, intense, they were the same ones I used to look up at from my bunk bed. My father, alive, standing in the house he wasn't supposed to know existed. My voice barely worked. You're dead? He didn't laugh, didn't smile, didn't rush toward me with open arms. He just stepped inside the room with slow, deliberate movements, eyes scanning everything, the closet, the opened shoebox, the letters on the floor, the one in my hand. No, he said, his tone clipped, controlled. I'm not dead. And if your mother had listened to me, you wouldn't be in danger right now. Danger. That word again. My throat tightened. I backed up until the bed frame hit the back of my legs. You. My voice cracked. You can't be here. This doesn't make sense. You died? Mom said you? She lied, he said simply. She lied to protect you. I felt like the air was being squeezed out of me, like the world I knew was folding in on itself. Why? I whispered. From what? He lifted a brow. Not what, Naomi? Who? My skin prickled. Mom said you didn't know I existed. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Anger, surprise, pain, I couldn't tell. She hid you from me, he said. But not for the reasons you think. I hated how calm he sounded, like he was explaining weather changes, not unraveling my entire life. Explain it then. I snapped, my voice breaking. Tell me why she lied. Tell me where you've been for 20 years. Tell me why you're suddenly standing in my house like a ghost. He exhaled slowly. He didn't sit. He didn't step closer. He just leaned against the doorframe and crossed his arms like he was grounding himself. Your mother and I were together for 2 years, he began. But our marriage wasn't built on love. The floor seemed to tilt under me. What does that mean? It means, he said, that when I met her, she had something I needed, something dangerous, something that could destroy powerful men if it ever came out. My stomach nodded. You're talking like I swallowed. Like you were part of something criminal. His eyes flicked to me. Your mother didn't tell you what I did? Numbo. My voice was small. She didn't tell me anything. I grew up believing I had a dead father. That was the whole story. He looked away for the first time, jaw clenching. That wasn't the whole story. The next words felt like a punch. I used to work for people who don't forgive mistakes. Your mother became one. My knees weakened. I grabbed the bed frame again. You mean she was in danger because of you? Yes, he said. Because she saw something she wasn't supposed to, and because she refused to give it back. Silence. He didn't soften the truth. He didn't wrap it in comfort. He handed it to me like a blade. I felt sick, confused, angry. So you threatened her, I whispered. No, he growled. I protected her. Another contradiction, another puzzle piece that didn't fit. He took one step closer, slowly, carefully, as if approaching an injured animal. I loved her, he said quietly, more than I was ever supposed to. That's why I helped her disappear. Disappear, my mother. The most predictable woman I ever knew. She lived here her whole life. I spat. She was a nurse, a choir volunteer. She wasn't in hiding. He tilted his head. You think living quietly means living safely. His voice dropped. The men we were running from don't chase you loudly, Naomi. They chase you quietly, patiently, until the day you slip. My heart thudded painfully, and she slipped. He hesitated, and that hesitation terrified me. Your mother's death, he began. No. I shook my head violently. No, don't say it. She had cancer. I saw the scans. I saw everything. His eyes softened in a way I didn't expect. I'm not saying the cancer wasn't real, he said. But it wasn't an accident that she got sick. My stomach twisted. What are you saying? I'm saying she wasn't meant to survive it. The world froze. No. My voice broke. No, she died naturally. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. They gave her a diagnosis because they were the ones who gave her the disease. And they waited until she was too weak to talk, too weak to run, too weak to warn you. I covered my mouth as a sob escaped my throat. Stop, I whispered. Stop lying. I'm not lying, he said. If I were lying, do you think I'd be here now? I shook my head, unable to breathe, because while part of me wanted to scream that he was insane, another part of me remembered the last months of my mother's life, how terrified she looked some nights, how she double-checked the locks, closed the curtains before sunset, flinched when the phone rang. At the time, I blamed the medication, the fear of dying. Now, I wasn't so sure. I sank onto the bed, my whole body trembling. If she was running, I rasped, why not come to me? Why not tell me the truth? He lowered himself to one knee, careful, cautious, like he didn't want to startle me. Because the moment you knew, he said softly, you became valuable. And the moment she died, you became unprotected. My breath hitched. He looked directly into my eyes. And the men who killed your mother, he swallowed hard, are the same men who were in this house 20 minutes ago. A sharp breath escaped me. What? My voice cracked. You heard them, he said. You were reading the letter when they entered the hallway. I felt my blood run cold. How do you know that? His expression hardened. Because they follow patterns. And because, Naomi, he stood up slowly. They followed you. I felt my entire chest collapse inward. They followed me. I whispered. My father didn't answer immediately. He just looked at the window, the cracked glass, the faint imprint of a boot on the hallway floor where someone had stood moments before I realized I wasn't alone. You didn't notice. He finally said, because you've lived your whole life believing danger is something that happens to other people. His tone wasn't cruel. It was tired, heavy, like he'd been waiting decades to say those words. Why would they follow me? I whispered. I don't know anything. You know enough to get killed. He replied, your mother wrote letters. That means she was preparing you. That means they assume she told you something. And people like them don't ask questions politely. They eliminate questions. My stomach turned. My pulse thudded so hard it hurt. You're scaring me, I said. You're not scared enough, he replied. My breath shuddered. He walked slowly across the room and closed the closet door quietly, deliberately, like leaving anything open was a risk. He was scanning everything, the windows, the shadows, the hallway, even the floorboards. It was like watching someone who lived his whole life expecting an attack, which terrified me more than the intruders. He turned to me again. You need to leave this house, he said. Right now. I hugged my arms around myself. This is my home. No, he said sharply. This was your mother's hiding place. Without her, it's a spotlight. They know she's dead. They know she kept things. They know you exist. Staying here is suicide. The word suicide rattled through me like broken glass. My throat tightened. I need a minute. You don't have a minute. I need to think. You don't have that either. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like we were already being watched. Naomi, listen to me. They killed your mother. They waited until she was weak enough to be erased quietly. Now they think she passed everything to you. And the fact that they showed up this fast means a sound cut him off. A car door outside. He froze. My lungs seized. We both turned toward the window at the same time. A dark silhouette passed by the broken glass. Get away from the window, he said, barely breathing the words. I stumbled backward. He reached into his jacket. I hadn't even noticed he was wearing something heavy enough to hide a weapon. But he didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a small black device and clicked a switch. The lights in the house flickered, then went out. You turned off the power. I whispered. No, he said. I turned off their advantage. Another silhouette appeared, closer. Then a second one. My father grabbed my wrist, not rough, but urgent, and pulled me toward the hallway. We'll need to take the back exit, he said. What back exit? We don't. He steered me into the bathroom, my mother's bathroom, then dropped to the floor and pulled up the rug. What are you? He pried his fingers under the corner of the tile floor and lifted, revealing a hidden square of wood. The crawl space. My breath hitched. You built this? I whispered. He didn't answer. He pushed the hatch fully open, and the smell of dust and old insulation hit my face. Get in? He said. No. I shook my head. No, I'm not crawling under the house. He leaned in so close I could see the reflection of the dim hallway in his eyes. Naomi, he said, voice low and deadly serious, they are here to kill you. Not talk, not question. Kill. You can either crawl into that tunnel or they'll drag your body out of this house on a tarp. My entire body went cold. Footsteps sounded on the front porch. Wood creaked. Someone jiggled the front doorknob. My father's voice was barely a whisper. In the tunnel. Now. This time my body obeyed. I dropped into the darkness. The floor of the tunnel was cold, packed with old boards, narrow enough that my shoulders scraped the sides. I flattened myself as far back as I could. He climbed in behind me, pulling the hatch closed right as the front door crashed open. I clapped a hand over my mouth. Heavy boots. 3, maybe 4 people. Moving fast. Speaking low in a language I didn't recognize. My father turned on a tiny flashlight, so dim it barely lit a few inches, but it was enough to see his face. Calm, focused, not frightened, like he had done this before. Someone upstairs kicked open a door. Glass shattered. The house trembled. My father touched my shoulder. We'll move, he whispered. Keep your body low. Don't drag your feet. The tunnel carries sound. I nodded, even though my entire body was shaking. We crawled in near complete darkness. Dust sticking to my lips, my heartbeat thundering in my ears, the thumps of footsteps above vibrating through the boards. What do they want? I whispered. To erase the past, he murmured. And anyone connected to it? I swallowed. And that's me. He looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Not fear, not anger, regret. It's always been you, he said softly. You just never knew it. The tunnel sloped downward. He guided me with gentle touches, toward turns, past beams, under pipes. Above us, a man's voice barked something. Then another answered. I froze. My father shook his head. Not English. They're not from here. Then who? Keep crawling. We moved again. The tunnel ended in a vertical shaft. He scaled it first, bracing himself between the wooden walls like he'd done it 1,000 times. Then he reached down and pulled me up with one arm. Light poured in when he cracked open the top hatch. We were inside the tool shed in the backyard. He lifted me out, quietly setting me on the dirt floor. Through the gaps in the shed walls, I could see shadows moving inside the house. 3 men, 4, armed. My father watched them silently. Why are you so calm? I whispered. He didn't look away from the house. Because they're not here for me, he said. He turned to me, his voice low. They're here for you. I felt my heartbeat stop. This is my fault. I whispered. Because I opened the letters. Because I found the box. No, he said sharply. This started long before today, before the letters, before your childhood, before you were even born. I stared at him. What does that mean? He looked me dead in the eyes. It means, Naomi, you were never supposed to exist. Those words, you were never supposed to exist, hit me harder than the gunshots, harder than the break, and harder than discovering my father was alive. I felt something inside me collapse, like the ground cracked open under my feet, and I was dangling over something dark and bottomless. I managed to whisper, What? What does that even mean? He closed the shed door behind us and secured the latch, plunging us into a dim, dusty half, darkness. Only thin slivers of sunlight leaked through the wood panels, slicing across his face. My father, this stranger, exhaled slowly. Your mother wasn't supposed to get pregnant. He said, You weren't part of the plan. Either of our plans. My chest tightened painfully. So I was a mistake. No, he said firmly, his voice sharper than before. You were a miracle. And that's exactly why you're in danger. A miracle. The word felt wrong in my mouth. How can I be in danger just for being born? I asked. He rubbed a hand over his face, frustrated, not with me, but with the entire situation. Because your mother got pregnant at the worst possible moment, he said. Right when she discovered something that could bring down men who don't just kill to protect their secrets, they erase entire family lines. My stomach twisted. How? I breathed. How could a nurse, my mom, discover something that dangerous? She wasn't a nurse when I met her. he said quietly. My breath caught. What? He sat on an overturned crate and leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low and steady like he was breaking open a vault he'd kept sealed for decades. Your mother worked for a private accounting firm, he said. A high-end one, the kind that handles money for people who don't want their money seen. My mouth went dry. You mean crime? He lifted his eyes to mine. I mean organized crime, real power, political power, international power, money being moved off records, bribes, payoffs, operations that were never meant to exist. I shook my head. No, that's not my mom. She was quiet. She helped people. She brought soup to sick neighbors. She wasn't. She was brilliant. He cut in gently. Too brilliant for her own safety. I felt tears sting my eyes. My mom? Caught up with people like that? It didn't make sense. He continued. One night, she stayed late. Her boss left his computer unlocked. The files she saw, he shook his head. They were enough to destroy men who would rather burn the world down than go to prison. And you? I whispered. His jaw tightened. I was sent to retrieve the files and eliminate the risk. Eliminate the risk. Those words sat between us like a loaded gun. You were supposed to kill her, I whispered. He didn't deny it. I was supposed to make her disappear, he said slowly. But she wasn't what I expected. She didn't beg. She didn't lie. She didn't make excuses. She just looked at me and said, if you're going to kill me, do it fast. My daughter is at home alone. A tear slipped down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. I wasn't born yet. He exhaled. You were, he said. You were 2 months old, sleeping in a crib in a tiny apartment. She pointed to your picture on the fridge and said, if you're taking me, someone needs to take her too. I won't leave her behind. My knees went weak. I gripped the wall. I couldn't do it. He continued, voice rough. I couldn't kill her. Or take you. She wasn't guilty of anything except being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then why didn't you bring us to the police? I asked. His laugh was humorless. There is no police in this world, Naomi, not the kind that protects you from men like them. So you helped her run. I helped her disappear, he said. New name, new state, new life. And I walked away. But you didn't walk away, I whispered. You watched us. For years, he admitted, from a distance, making sure no one got too close, making sure the wrong questions didn't get asked. Anger flared in my chest. So you watched me grow up alone, without a father. You let me believe you were dead. I had to, he said quietly. The moment you believed I was alive, you would have wanted answers. You would have asked questions. And curiosity gets people killed. His voice softened. I'd rather you hate me than bury you. I turned away, wiping my face. This is insane, I whispered. This is too much. This sounds like a movie, not my life. He stood and stepped closer. Your mother managed to hide you for 29 years, he said. But she made one mistake. My breath hitched. She kept the letters. I looked at the crumpled paper in my hand, the words that shattered my entire existence. She left the trail, he said, and they followed it straight to you. A shadow passed across the shed wall. I froze. Someone's outside, I whispered. He glanced through a thin gap in the wood. His face hardened. Not one. He murmured. 3. My pulse skyrocketed. What do we do? I said, my voice trembling. He reached into a box under the shelf and pulled out a small metal case. When he snapped it open, I saw 2 things, a gun and a folded piece of paper. He didn't hand me the gun. He handed me the paper. "Your mother left this for you?" he said. My heart pounded. "What is it?" He didn't answer. Outside, footsteps approached the shed door, slow, deliberate, certain. My father leaned close, voice barely audible. "Naomi, whatever happens next, do not scream." "What's going to happen?" I whispered. The shed door handle turned. Metal creaked. My father's eyes locked onto mine, dark, steady, unblinking. "Because the men outside," he said softly, "aren't here to question you." The latch began to lift. "They're here to take you." The metal latch on the shed door lifted with a slow, scraping sound that sliced through my spine. My father pressed a finger to his lips. "Don't make a sound," then moved silently to the far corner of the shed. I clutched the folded paper he'd given me, my hands shaking so violently the corners rustled. I didn't even have the courage to look at it yet. My entire body was locked on the present. The footsteps right outside, the whisper of voices I couldn't understand, the terrifying certainty that they knew we were in here. The door pushed inward an inch. My father shifted his stance, low and ready, like a man who'd survived enough fights to know exactly where to position his body before violence erupted. Another voice outside, low, impatient, foreign. The door trembled again under the pressure of someone testing its strength. And then silence. My father mouthed, "Move back." I backed into the corner behind a stack of old boxes. My breath stuck in my throat. A shadow darkened the crack beneath the door. Then, boom. The entire shed shook as someone rammed the door, splintering the wood. I let out a tiny involuntary gasp and instantly covered my mouth. My father didn't flinch. He moved. Fast. Not like a tired older man. Not like someone who'd been hiding for decades. Like a soldier whose instincts never died. He grabbed a shovel from the wall and wedged it under the door handle like a makeshift brace. The door shook violently as someone slammed into it again. The wood cracked. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Naomi," he whispered, not looking at me. "Listen very carefully. You stay behind me no matter what." My throat tightened. "How are we going to get out?" "We're trapped." "Trapped is a state of mind," he said, almost too calmly. The door splintered near the lower hinge. The men were strong, organized, not guessing, not investigating, hunting. My father pulled a heavy toolbox off the shelf and dropped it with a loud metallic thud. Then he crouched beside it, twisted a latch, and lifted a false bottom from inside. What lay underneath made my entire body cold. A map. Not a normal map, a blueprint. The layout of our house. The tunnel we crawled through. The shed, the woods beyond. He shoved the blueprint into my hands. "Your mother drew this," he said. "Use it." "Where are we going?" I whispered. He didn't answer. The door cracked fully down the middle. One more hit and they'd be inside. "Dad, do not call me that right now," he said sharply. "Not where they can hear it. Names can be traced. Identities can be used." Another slam. The hinge tore free. "They're going to break through?" I cried. "I know," he said. "That's why you're leaving first." "What?" "No." He grabbed the shelf beside me, pulled it forward, and revealed another hatch on the floor, smaller, narrower, hidden under layers of dust. A second tunnel. "What is that?" I whispered. "The emergency exit," he said. "Your mother insisted on building two." My breath caught. Mom, she planned for all of this. She planned for every version of danger. He said softly. "She just didn't plan for dying before she could tell you." The door finally gave way, half dangling, wood cracking inward. Fingers gripped the edges of the frame. A boot appeared. then another. My father grabbed my wrist and pushed me toward the open hatch. Go. Now. No. Tears blurred my vision. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice, he said. You're the one they want. Not me. Another man stepped into the shed, weapon drawn. My father shoved me hard enough that I fell down the narrow opening. The hatch slammed shut above me before I could scream. I lay in total darkness. Footsteps thundered overhead. Voices shouted. Furniture scraped. The shed shook violently as something heavy crashed against the wall. And then, gunshots, 3 loud cracks. My heart almost exploded out of my chest. Dad! I screamed before I could stop myself. But my voice was swallowed by the dirt walls. I scrambled forward in the darkness, crawling so fast my knees scraped raw against rocks and debris. Tears streamed down my face, mixing with dust. The dirt tunnel was damp, cold, suffocating. Above me, another gunshot, then yelling, then nothing. The silence was worse than the violence. I crawled faster, sobbing, trembling. The tunnel sloped upward, and finally the ceiling thinned enough that faint light leaked through. I reached a small grate at the end. Beyond it I saw trees, shadows, the edge of the woods. I pushed the grate. It didn't move. I slammed my shoulder into it, and it popped open, falling into the wet grass outside. Fresh air flooded my lungs. But I didn't feel relief. Not for a second. I pulled myself out and stumbled behind a tree, scanning the backyard. The shed door hung open. Dark, silent. My father didn't come out. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might pass out. No, 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 no. I whispered, gripping my hair. I wanted to run back. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break the world open until I found him. But my mother's voice echoed in my head, words she wrote before she died. If anything happens to me, Naomi, do not be brave. Be alive. My legs moved on instinct, running into the woods, away from the house, away from the shed, away from everything I had ever known. Branches slapped my skin. Leaves tangled in my hair. My breath came in ragged, broken gasps. I ran until my lungs burned. Until the sounds of the men were gone. Until the world around me was only trees and shadows. Finally, I collapsed on the forest floor, clutching the folded paper my father gave me, my mother's last message. Hands shaking, I opened it. There were only 6 words. 6 words that made my blood run coldsy. They'll kill you for the truth. And below it, scribbled quickly, almost like she wrote it while someone was coming. Find the girl in the photograph. The forest swallowed me whole. Wind tore through the branches above, sending leaves spiraling around me like frantic warnings. My breath was uneven. My hands shaking so hard the paper nearly slipped from my fingers. Find the girl in the photograph. What girl? What photograph? Why would my mother's last written words point me to a stranger? Unless she wasn't a stranger. I closed my eyes and forced myself to breathe. Just for a second. My mother's handwriting trembled across the page, fast, uneven, like she wrote it while terrified. I folded the paper tightly, tucking it into my pocket. My shirt was soaked with sweat. My face streaked with dirt and tears. Every muscle in my body buzzed with panic. Was my father? No. I couldn't think about that. Not yet. I had to move. I had to survive. I had to outrun the shadows behind me and the truth that was clawing its way to the surface. I pushed deeper into the woods, following a narrow trail, barely visible through the underbrush, one I didn't recognize, but that somehow felt like it had been walked before. Maybe by my mother, or maybe by the men chasing us. A shiver ran through me. My mother spent years hiding something, hiding me. And all those letters, she never intended for me to read them while she was alive, because she knew reading them meant danger. Reading them meant choosing a side. A twig snapped behind me. I froze. Not an animal. Not the wind. Someone stepped on that. I ducked behind a fallen tree, pressed myself into the damp earth, and held my breath. Another crunch, slow, deliberate. They were tracking me. My heartbeat was so loud I swore it echoed off the trees. I pressed a hand over my mouth and tried to make myself smaller, invisible. The footsteps grew closer. Then they stopped. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The forest held its breath with me. A voice, low and unfamiliar, spoke in that same foreign language I heard earlier. Two others responded. They weren't far. Maybe 20 feet, maybe less. Oh God. Oh God. If they looked down, if they walked 2 more steps, they'd see me lying there in the dirt. I squeezed my eyes shut. My mother's voice whispered through my memory, "Don't be brave. Be alive." So I stayed still, perfectly still. The footsteps resumed, faint, then farther, then gone. I didn't move for another full minute. My limbs felt frozen, like they'd forgotten how to function. When I finally pushed myself up, my muscles screamed. My hands were muddy and raw from gripping the bark so hard. I stumbled forward again, deeper into the forest. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stop. Not here. Not anywhere they could follow. A clearing opened ahead, sunlight breaking through the trees like an invitation out of the nightmare. But I didn't trust it. Clearings meant visibility. Visibility meant death. Still, my legs moved toward it. My breath caught when I saw what was in the middle of a bench. Old. Weathered. Like someone had put it there decades ago. And sitting on top of it, a photograph, just lying there, waiting. My skin crawled. I approached slowly, half expecting a trap, half terrified of what I'd find. The forest was deadly quiet, too quiet. I picked up the photo with trembling fingers. It was a picture of a young woman, maybe 19, smiling awkwardly at the camera, holding a backpack. Her hair was dark, her eyes bright. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place why. Then my stomach dropped. In the corner, barely visible, the faint outline of my mother stood behind her. Young, healthier, sad. I flipped the photo over, a handwritten date, 1994, the year I was born. My pulse pounded in my ears. Was this girl me? No, she wasn't. Her features were different. Similar, but not identical. A sister, a cousin, someone connected to my mother's secret life. Before I could spiral any further, a sound cut through the forest. A branch snapping sharply. Close. Too close? I whipped around, my heart jumping into my throat, just as something slammed into me from the side. A hand clamped over my mouth. I struggled, kicking wildly, trying to scream. No, Naomi, stop! Stop! The voice, familiar, urgent, alive. I froze. He loosened his grip. My father, covered in dirt, sweat dripping, breathing hard, very much alive. I told you not to scream, he rasped. I broke down in relief, my knees buckling. You're alive. Oh my God, I thought. I heard. I thought. No time, he said, gripping my shoulders. They're closing in. They're tracking you by the direction you ran. We have minutes, maybe less. I shoved the photograph against his chest. She said to find her. I choked. Who is she? Why was this left out here? He glanced at the girl in the picture. His face drained of color. He looked like someone had stabbed him. Where did you find this? He whispered. Here, I said. It was just sitting on the bench like someone wanted me to find it. He closed his eyes for a moment. This shouldn't be here, he said. No one should know about her. My blood went cold. About who? I pressed. Tell me. He opened his mouth, and a gunshot ripped through the trees. My entire body flinched as bark exploded inches from my head. They found us, he said. He grabbed my wrist, yanking me into the trees, running faster than I thought an older man could run. Branches whipped my arms. Rocks cut into my shoes. Gunshots echoed behind us. Voices shouted. Who is she? I yelled, my voice breaking. Mount Choice! Teach a girl! He didn't look back. She's the reason you were never supposed to be born, he said. Another shot tore through the air. She's the child your mother saved before she saved you. I stumbled. What does that even? She's your sister, Naomi? My world tilted. My father squeezed my hand. And she's the reason they won't stop until every one of you is dead. My mind couldn't process what my father had just said. She's your sister, Naomi. The trees blurred around me as we ran, branches cutting my arms, roots threatening to trip me, my lungs burning like they were tearing apart. But none of that mattered compared to the sentence that detonated inside my skull. My sister. I gasped, struggling to keep up as my father yanked me through dense underbrush. I don't have a sister. You were never supposed to know, he said, ducking under a low branch. No, Moquette. I shouted, that you and Mom had another kid, that you hide her. That a gunshot split the air again, closer this time, forcing him to grab my head and shove me behind a thick oak tree. Dirt exploded at my feet. Keep your voice, WN. He hissed, but I couldn't. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My whole world felt like it was breaking apart in my hands like wet paper. Dad, stop. Stop. I tugged on his shirt until he finally froze. You're telling me I have a sister I never knew about. A sister Mom wrote about in her final letter. A sister these people are willing to kill over. And you expect me to just run. He swallowed hard. His eyes looked older than I'd ever seen them. Tired. Broken. Guilty. We don't have time for this, he whispered. We do. I shot back, stepping in front of him, blocking his path. We have to. I'm not moving another inch until you tell me the truth. He looked over my head toward the forest where the voices were echoing. Then he looked at me. Really looked, and I saw it, the war inside him. The terror, the pain, the resignation. Fine, he said, but we can't stay here. Before I could argue, he grabbed my hand again and pulled me down a narrow, almost invisible trail hidden by wild ferns. We ran silently for almost a minute before the path opened into a small ravine. Shielded by rocks and thick shrubs, he pushed me down behind a boulder and crouched beside me. His hands trembled. His breathing shook. He looked like a man about to confess to murder. Start talking, I said, wiping sweat from my face. He didn't look at me. Not at first. Instead, he pulled something from inside his jacket, a folded, worn photograph. Not the one I'd found earlier. Another one. He handed it to me with shaking fingers. I unfolded it slowly. 2 girls stood side by side. One of them was unmistakably my mother, young, beaming, alive in a way I'd never seen. Her arm was wrapped around a girl who looked so much like me I felt physically sick. Same dark hair, same jawline, same dimples, but older, maybe 17. My throat tightened so fast I choked. Who is she? My father leaned his head back against the rock and closed his eyes. Her name was Lena, he whispered. Lena. Even her name felt familiar in a strange, aching way, like a ghost memory from a dream I couldn't quite reach. She was your sister, he said. Your mother's first daughter, born 3 years before you. My world tilted. Why didn't I know about her? I demanded. Why didn't anyone know about her? He finally looked at me, and the look in his eyes, pure devastation. Because she died, he said. When she was 17, my chest imploded, died. The word felt heavier than the forest pressing down around us. How? I whispered. He looked away again, jaw clenching. That's the part your mother was afraid to tell you. A cold shiver wrapped around my spine. What happened? He rubbed his face with both hands like he was trying to scrub the memory away. They killed her. My heart stopped. Killed who killed her. The wind swept through the ravine, carrying voices from the forest above, still searching, still hunting us. Naomi, he said, gripping my hand, the same people who are after us now. My stomach lurched. The same people who came to our house. I pressed, goosebumps rising along my arms. The same people who forced Mom into hiding, who made her write coded letters, who made her plan my life like a fugitive. He nodded. Please tell me what they want. I begged. Tell me why they're doing this, why they killed Lena, why they're chasing us now. He swallowed hard. They want what your mother stole. A rock dropped inside my chest. My mother, I whispered. Mom never stole anything in her life. He gave me a heartbreaking smile. That's what you think. Before I could respond, branches cracked above us, closer than before. My father grabbed my arm. We don't have time to finish, he said. We need to move. No, I insisted, gripping him back. Tell me, what did Mom steal? He hesitated. Gunfire exploded above the ravine, spraying dirt and rocks beside us. He grabbed me and pulled me to my feet. They found the trail, he said. Run. We scrambled through the narrow ravine, stones slipping under our feet. My father kept shielding me with his body, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. The forest roared with gunshots and shouting. My lungs burned as we ran uphill. Every step felt like I was dragging a truck behind me. We reached the top of the ridge, and I saw a small wooden cabin tucked between thick pine trees. Smoke rising faintly from the chimney. No path. No driveway. No signs of life. Except my father exhaled. She made it here, he whispered. Thank God. I froze. Who? I asked between breaths. He didn't answer. He dragged me forward. Toward the cabin, we reached the door. He knocked twice, slow, deliberate. My entire body shook uncontrollably. The door swung open, and my heart stopped. A woman stood there, older than me, dark hair, pulled into a braid. Same eyes, same dimples, the same face as the girl in the photograph, but older, alive. Oh my God, I whispered. My father let out a shaky breath. Naomi, he said, voice breaking. This is Lena, the sister my mother said was dead, the sister I thought I never had, the sister everyone had risked everything to hide, was standing right in front of me, alive. For a second, my brain just blew, screamed. I stood there in the doorway, wind whipping my hair, heart beating so hard I could hear it in my ears, staring at a woman who should not exist. Her eyes were the same shape as mine. Her dimples were the same as mine. But there were lines around her mouth, a faint scar across her eyebrow, a tiredness in her face that only comes from years of running. She looked at me like she was seeing a ghost too. Naomi? She said slowly, like she was tasting the name. You look just like her did when we were kids. Her voice cracked on our mother. My father exhaled shakily. We don't have time for reunions on the doorstep. They're behind us. Lena's gaze snapped past my shoulder, scanning the trees, eyes sharp in a way mine had never been. Survival eyes. Inside now. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the cabin. Dad slammed the door behind us and threw two heavy steel bolts I hadn't even noticed from the outside. Then he dropped the wooden bar across the middle. It wasn't just a cabin. It was a bunker. There were no windows, just slits high on the walls. Shelves lined with canned food, medical supplies, a generator humming softly somewhere in the back, maps pinned to a corkboard with red strings connecting different cities, a radio, a small wood stove, and on the table in the center of it all, a box. Old, battered, familiar. My stomach's flipped. It was the same kind of box my mother had used for her letters. Same pattern, same tiny brass latch. You kept one, I whispered. Lena's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. You've been reading them? Not all, I admitted, but enough to know something was very, very wrong. She gave a humorless laugh. That's putting it lightly. Outside in the distance, I could still hear voices and occasional gunshots. Closer now. Searching. Sweeping. What do they want? I demanded, turning to my father, then to Lena. Mom said she was sorry, that she couldn't tell me sooner, that she did something she couldn't undo, that we were in danger because of her. I thought she was exaggerating or sick, or my voice broke. Was any of my life real? I asked. Did anything I grew up believing actually happen the way I thought it did? Or was all of it just staging, preparation for this? Neither of them answered right away. Lena moved first, pulling out a chair and sinking into it like her legs suddenly gave up. She waved at another one across from her. Said, ask your questions. You deserve answers. We don't have time for story hour. My father snapped. Sweat was beading along his hairline. We need to prep the exit tunnel. They're going to find this place. They always find this place, Lena replied calmly. But we've got at least 10 minutes before they get close enough to be a real problem. She's been lied to for 25 years. I'm not making her run blind. She turned back to me. And for the first time since I'd met her, I saw something like softness in her eyes. I wasn't supposed to be alive, she said. Not officially. That's why Mom told you I died. That's why all her letters talk around me without ever mentioning my name. Why? I whispered. Because the last time she told the truth about her family, someone ended up in the morgue. The words hit like ice down my spine. What did she steal? I asked. Dad said they want what she took, that they killed you because of it. But you're here, which means either he lied or she lied or everybody lied, and I am so tired of not knowing who the hell I can trust. They glanced at each other. Dad looked away first. Lena leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. Do you remember where Mom used to work before she got sick? She asked. I frowned. The research lab, pharma something. Delmont Therapeutics, she said. On paper, they develop life-saving medications. Off paper, her jaw tightened. They were testing things they had no right to even touch. My brain scrambled through old memories. Mom's lab coat. Her late nights. Her tired eyes. Her saying things like, I'm close, baby. This could change everything. And me thinking she meant some new medicine that would win her an award. What kind of things? I asked quietly. Lena inhaled slowly. Luna-approved drug trials. On people who didn't consent. On kids in low-income neighborhoods. On undocumented patients who were too scared to go to the police. They tested side effects on the people least able to fight back. I felt my stomach heave. You're kidding? I whispered. I wish I was, she said. Mom found out. She tried to report it through the proper channels. HR, Internal Ethics Board, anonymous complaints. Every single door she knocked on was locked from the inside. They were all in on it. or bought. That doesn't explain why they're shooting at us in the woods. I snapped, panic sharpening into anger. Lots of companies are corrupt. They don't send hitmen after lab techs. Your mother wasn't just a lab tech. My father finally said, voice tight. She was the person who figured out how to prove what they were doing. She got into their private servers. She downloaded full data sets, client lists, trial records, payment trails, offshore accounts. She didn't just expose a bad study. She exposed an entire criminal network. Lena nodded. She stole the heart of their operation, proof that could send a dozen executives to prison for the rest of their lives, proof that could bankrupt Delmont and every shadow company attached to it. I stared between them, pulse roaring. And where is it? I asked. If that's what they want, where is it now? They both looked at the box on the table. My chest tightened. No way. I whispered. The letters. Not just the letters, Lena said. They were her breadcrumb trail. She couldn't just send you a USB drive labeled evidence of massive corporate crime. She had to give it to you in pieces. Hide it in plain sight. Turn it into something only her daughter would care enough to follow. I thought about the letters I'd already read, the weirdly specific details, the random directions. The pressed wildflower taped to the corner of one page, the way each one referenced some small object, one I still owned. You're telling me, I said slowly, that my entire childhood was a puzzle. Your childhood was real, my father said quickly, finally looking at me, desperate for me to believe that one tiny piece. We loved you. We raised you. We tried to give you as normal a life as we could. But yes, your mother built a contingency plan into everything, just in case she didn't make it, and just in case they came after you. When she told you stories, Lena added she was teaching you patterns. When she made you memorize routes on road trips, she was mapping safe paths. When she made you repeat addresses back to her, she was planting future coordinates. My head spun. So the last letter, I whispered, remembering the one I'd found in the hollow floorboard, the one she told me not to read until I had no other choice. The last letter unlocks it all, Lena said. The final key, the part they don't have, the reason they still need you. But they already have the letters, I said. They broke into my apartment. They tore it apart. They knew what they were looking for. If it was just data, why are they still chasing us? Because your mother was smarter than them, Lena said. She never put all the pieces in one place. She hid some of them with me, some with your father, some with you, and one last one somewhere only you can find, because only you know how she thinks now. So they're not just after us, I realized, feeling my throat close. They're after whatever only I can unlock. Lena nodded. Congratulations, she said bitterly. You're the human password. A thud hit the outside wall. We all froze. Another, louder, closer. The sound of boots on earth. Voices barking orders. The low hum of an engine. How long has this place been compromised? My father hissed at Lena. She stood, already moving toward the back of the cabin, grabbing a backpack from a peg on the wall. It's not compromised, she said. It's just frequently discovered. That's literally what compromised means. I snapped, adrenaline flooding my system again. Argue later, she said. Right now, we move. To where? I shouted. We can't just keep running forever. What's the plan? At some point, we have to stop and fight back. We have proof, right? Why don't we just go to the FBI? The press? Anyone? You think we haven't tried? Lena spun on me, eyes blazing. You think Mom didn't try? They own people in every agency, every outlet. The last reporter who took an interest in this died of an accidental overdose 2 days later. My skin went cold. So what then? I whispered, "What do we do?" Lena met my eyes. "We play the only card they don't have," she said. "You." Another impact shook the door. Wood splintered slightly. Someone cursed outside. Dad grabbed my shoulders. "Naomi, listen to me. Whatever happens next, you stick with Lena. Do what she tells you. Don't argue. Don't try to be a hero. Just survive. That's how you win. You understand." Panic rose in my chest. "What are you talking about?" "You're coming too." He smiled sadly. "Someone has to hold them off." My heart dropped straight through the floor. "No," I said immediately. "No, we are not doing the noble sacrifice thing. We're not in a movie. You're coming with us?" "Naomi," he said, and his voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. "I spent years lying to you. Let me do one honest thing. Let me buy you time." "Dad," the door shuddered again. Crack, crack. The steel bolts groaned. Lena grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the back wall. She yanked a rug aside, revealing a steel hatch built into the floor. "You're not dying for me?" I choked out, fighting her grip. "I won't let you." He stepped forward, pressed his forehead briefly to mine. "You already lost your mother," he whispered. "You're not losing both of us. Not today." Then he kissed my forehead, pushed me toward the open hatch, and turned his back on me. Thing I saw before Lena dragged me underground was my father grabbing a shotgun from behind the wood stove, squaring his shoulders and facing the door as it started to crack open, while men with guns waited on the other side. The hatch slammed shut above me. Darkness swallowed everything. Not the soft kind, the suffocating kind. The kind that presses against your lungs and steals your breath before you realize you're panicking. Lena's hand locked around my wrist as she pulled me down a narrow metal ladder. I had no choice but to follow. My legs weren't even working. I was half falling, half being dragged. Above us, the cabin floor shook. A boom shook dirt loose from the ceiling. A gunshot, then another. My father? "Oh my God, Dad!" I gasped, looking up at the hatch as if I could claw my way back up. "Don't," Lena ordered sharply. "Don't look. Don't think. Just move. He'll die," I cried. She didn't say, "No, he won't." She just said, "Keep moving." And somehow that told me everything. We hit the bottom of the ladder. My knees buckled. The stone floor was freezing, and the air smelled damp, earthy, like the inside of a tomb. A tunnel stretched ahead of us, dimly lit by faint emergency lights embedded into the walls. Long, narrow, curving into blackness. "This way," Lena said, already jogging. But I was frozen. I stood there staring at the ladder we just descended, expecting, hoping, praying, to hear my father's voice shouting our names, telling us he made it, telling us to stop worrying. Instead, the only sound was gunfire. Sharp, violent. Then a scream. I couldn't even tell if it was his. My legs gave out. I hit the ground hard, palms scraping stone. I can't leave him. I can't leave him up there with THEM. Lena spun around and crouched in front of me. Her hands grabbed both sides of my face, squeezing just enough to force my eyes into hers. Her voice was a low, trembling whisper. "Naomi, if he was still alive, he would have come down after us." It hit like acid in my chest. "If you go back up that ladder," she continued, "you will die. You don't know their faces. I do. They don't hesitate. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. Please, please, don't make his sacrifice worthless. My throat closed, and a sob clawed its way out of me, raw and painful. Lena pulled me into her arms, holding me as tightly as she could while the muffled war raged above us. For a few seconds, I wasn't running from hitmen or decoding a mother's dying messages. I was just a daughter who might have lost her father. But the world didn't pause. The gunfire above intensified. Something heavy crashed. Boots thundered. Voices shouted. Lena jerked me to my feet. We have to go. Nah, boo. I wiped my face with shaking hands and forced my legs to move. The tunnel seemed to stretch forever as we ran, the dim lights flickering like dying stars. My thoughts came in fragments, sharp, broken. Is he dead? He can't be dead. He promised. He told me to survive. Why didn't I hug him harder? Why didn't I tell him I loved him? Lena kept glancing back to make sure I was still behind her. She was fast, too fast, but she slowed her pace whenever I stumbled. You okay? She panted. No, I said honestly. But go. I'll keep up. We ran another stretch until finally the tunnel opened into a wide underground chamber, like an old root cellar, reinforced with concrete and steel beams. A wooden table sat in the middle. Maps covered the walls. Backup supplies, water jugs, emergency blankets. This place was prepared. My mother built this. For us, Lena grabbed a metal case from a shelf and threw it onto the table. It clattered loudly. What is that? I asked, trying to steady my breathing. The part of Mom's evidence I've been hiding for 8 years, she said. The part she trusted me with, because I was already dead on paper. She flipped the latches. Inside were not hard drives or USB sticks, not envelopes or printed documents, but small wooden cubes, carved, etched, smooth from wear, each with markings that looked almost like runes or coded symbols. I blinked. What is this? Lena lifted one cube and held it between us. She used toys, she said softly, because nobody suspects toys. My breath hitched. Memories snapped into place like magnets, wooden blocks Mom used to make me stack in patterns. Alphabet cubes she claimed she'd bought from a thrift shop. Puzzle blocks I carried everywhere as a kid. My childhood. My mother weaponized my childhood. How long have you known? I whispered. That she hid the data in the cubes. She asked. Since she told me to run. I realized something then. You weren't killed, I said slowly. You disappeared. Lena nodded. Mom faked my death. It was the only way to protect me. But why tell me you were dead? I demanded. Why didn't she trust me? Why didn't she? Because you were the last piece. Lena cut in. The final key. If they knew you existed, if they knew she was grooming another daughter to be a failsafe, you would have been dead before kindergarten. Tears stung my eyes again, hot and furious. So what? I was just what? A backup plan? A code book with legs? You were her hope, Lena said quietly. Her chance to end all of this without losing everyone she loved. I shook my head. I'm nobody. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a spy. I can't even run without tripping. You're wrong. Lena looked right at me. You think everything you're good at is random. The way you memorize patterns. The way you notice small details. The way you can remember entire routes after driving them once. The way you see meaning in things other people overlook. My stomach dropped as she spoke. Those were all things Mom praised. Things she always encouraged. Naomi. Lena's voice softened to almost a whisper. Mom didn't just raise you. She trained you. I felt the words like a punch. She grooms you to be the final decoder. Lena continued. She didn't want to. God? She hated herself for it. But she had no choice. She knew they'd come for her. She knew her time was limited. She knew someone had to finish what she started. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No. I'm just a girl who grew up reading mystery novels and organizing things by color. I am not some chosen one. A deafening explosion shook the chamber. The walls vibrated. Dust rained from the ceiling. The hatch we'd crawled out of slammed from the shockwave. Lena's head snapped toward the echoing tunnel. "Oh no," she breathed. "They found the cabin." My chest tightened. "They're coming down here," she whispered. She grabbed the wooden cubes and stuffed them into the metal case, snapping it shut. "They're armed. They know these tunnels. And if they get their hands on this case or on you," a voice echoed down the tunnel. A man shouting, closer than before. "They know," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "They know Dad didn't kill us." Another voice echoed. "We found the hatch! Movie!" Boots thundered. Multiple men getting closer. Lena grabbed my hand so hard our fingers locked. "We don't have time," she said, panic tightening her voice. "There's only one way out now." She pointed to a steel door embedded in the far wall, barely visible behind stacked crates. Rusted. Thick. Like it hadn't been opened in years. "What's behind it?" I asked. Lena hesitated, just for a second. Then the place mom hit the last letter. My heart stopped. The last letter. The one she said would break me. The one she said would explain everything. The one they would kill to get first. Boots pounded toward us, louder and closer. Lena lifted the metal case, shoved it against my chest, and forced me toward the door. "Naomi, whatever happens, don't stop. Don't look back. Don't hesitate. And whatever you read, whatever truth is behind that door," her voice cracked, "be strong enough to survive it." The lights flickered. The men were almost here. Lena shoved the door open and pushed me inside. The door slammed behind me with a force that rattled my teeth. For one horrible second, I thought Lena had locked me in, that I was sealed in a concrete box with no way out. But then I realized the echo I heard was her body slamming back against it, bracing it with her weight. Men shouted on the other side of the tunnel. The sound vibrated through the metal. "Go, Naomi," she screamed. Run? I wanted to bang on the door. I wanted to yell at her, to drag her in here with me, to refuse to leave her. But my legs were already moving, driven by a survival instinct, bigger than my grief. The room I'd stumbled into was huge, bigger than the cellar, low ceiling, concrete walls, but long, stretching into shadows. A row of stale air pressed against my face, cold, moldy, tinged with something metallic. Emergency lights glowed weakly along the floor, casting a dim amber path. The sound of pounding boots outside snapped me forward. I clutched the metal case to my chest and moved deeper in. Behind me, Lena's voice rose in a shout, then dropped into a grunt, like she'd been hit. The scraping of bodies against the door made the hinges shriek. I swallowed a sob and forced myself not to look back. Don't think. Move. The space started to take shape as my eyes adjusted. On one side, shelves. Metal ones, packed with labeled boxes, notebooks, old binders, and things that looked like equipment manuals. On the other, filing cabinets, double-stacked. In the center, a long workbench covered in papers, tools, a disassembled radio, loose wires. And at the far end, against the wall, bolted into concrete, a heavy steel safe. My heart lurched toward it. Everything about this place screamed one thing. This is where she kept the real secrets. Above me, the muffled chaos continued, shouts, bangs, the thud of something, someone hitting the wall. One of the emergency lights flickered, threatening to die. I put the case on the workbench with shaking hands and studied the safe. Old industrial, no digital keypad, just a mechanical dial and a heavy handle. No way I was guessing that combination by luck. Unless my brain flicked through memories like it was rifling a filing cabinet. My 8th birthday. Mom teaching me how to listen. To locks with a stethoscope she'd borrowed from the lab. The way she laughed when Dad called us his little criminals. The rainy afternoon she'd made me memorize her wedding date backward for fun. The number patterns she made me repeat as if they were nursery rhymes. She hadn't been playing. She'd been programming me. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly, and let the numbers come. Her birthday. My birthday. The day of the fire. The date on the very first letter. No. It had to be something both daughters shared. Something family, something central. I thought of the framed photo that always sat on the mantel. Our whole family at the lakeside cabin, all squinting in the sun. Dad's arm around Mom's shoulders. Lena and me in matching swimsuits. The date scribbled on the back. August 17th, 8:17. Then there was the way Mom always tapped 3 times on a door before opening it like a ritual. 3. And how she'd insist on doing things in sets of 4. 4 blocks, 4 cubes, 4 steps in a pattern. 8, 17, 3, 4. It sounded insane. It also sounded exactly like her. I crouched, pressed my ear to the door of the safe like she taught me, fingers on the dial. The room quickly narrowed to 3 things: the faint scrape of metal, the pounding of my heart, and the distant, desperate sounds of Lena fighting for time I was wasting. Come on, I whispered. Please, Mom, please let me be right. I spun the dial to 8. The faintest click brushed my ear, or maybe I imagined it. I forced myself not to second guess. 17 click. 3 click. Click. 4. There was a heavier thunk this time, deep and satisfying, like some ancient mechanism had just given up. I grabbed the handle with both hands and pulled. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then the metal groaned and the safe door swung open. Inside, there weren't piles of documents like I expected. No stacks of files or bundles of cash or precious artifacts. There were 3 things: a small black hard drive, a plain manila folder, and a sealed envelope. My name was on the envelope, not Naomi, not sweetheart, just FORN. The handwriting knocked the air out of my chest. I snatched up the envelope with shaking fingers, then hesitated. If I opened this now, in the middle of chaos, I'd never absorb any of it. Not properly. And something in my bones told me this, the last letter, was going to take the ground out from under me. Boots pounded closer, vibrating through the floor. Lena's voice cut through again, strangled and breathless. We're clear down here. It's just me. She was lying for me, buying me seconds. I shoved the envelope into the inside pocket of my jacket and grabbed the hard drive and folder, dumping them into the metal case with the wooden cubes. Then I snapped the case shut and looked around wildly. There had to be another way out. Mom wouldn't build a kill box. She'd always think 3 steps ahead, 3 exits minimum, 3 escape routes, always thirds. My eyes swept the room again, more desperately. Workbench shelves, cabinets, safe, then I saw it. A narrow opening behind a row of file cabinets, partially concealed by a hanging tarp. A draft brushed my face from that direction, cooler than the stale air in the rest of the room. I ran toward it, dragging the case along the concrete. The tarp scratched my skin as I pushed through. Behind it was a sloping passage, barely tall enough to walk upright. dirt walls reinforced with wood beams, roots dangling like dark veins. The emergency lights didn't reach here. I had to feel my way with one hand as I dragged the case with the other. Behind me, the chamber door slammed open with a deafening clang. CHCKVR, why Tai G? A man's voice barked. The hard drives, the shelves, if she left anything, I want it. I froze, pressing myself against the earth wall, clutching the case so tightly my fingers hurt. They were here. They were in the room I'd just left. Something heavy crashed, probably the workbench. Papers fluttered. Metal clanged, boots scuffed. An object rolled, striking the concrete with a hollow sound. Safe is open! Another voice shouted, but it's empty! A pause, then a third voice. Calm, cold. She got to it first. The way he said, she, made my skin crawl. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking about my mother. She'd never really left. Check the tunnels, the cold voice ordered. She doesn't know them like we do, but rats always find cracks. Silence. Then a sharp cry. Lena. My entire body moved on instinct, turning back toward the opening, ready to crawl out and throw myself at whoever touched her. I didn't care that I had no weapon, no training, no plan. Rage made me stupid and brave. But then I heard her voice. It's just me, she said, breathless but icy. You already know the other one's dead. You saw the fire. If someone's been here, it was your leak, not ours. For a second, the lie confused me. Dead. She was talking about me. She was already rewriting reality, protecting me with my mother's favorite weaponsy misdirection. You expect me to believe that? The cold voice asked. We track movement. We see your father's car. We lose him halfway down the mountain. Maybe if you didn't treat him like a hunting dog, he'd be more cooperative. Lena snapped. A slap cracked through the chamber. I flinched so hard my head hit the dirt wall. Don't get brave with me, the man said. His voice changed for the worse, softer, almost amused. If the girl is alive, we'll find her. We always do. And when we do, you know what happens to anyone who harbors her. My stomach churned. They weren't just after data. They were after blood. Naomi, be strong enough to survive it. Lena's last words echoed in my skull. I pressed my fist against my mouth to smother any sound and started moving again, crawling deeper into the narrow passage. Every shuffle sent tiny stones skittering. Every breath sounded too loud. Behind me, the men tore the room apart. I heard crates being kicked over, shelves being dragged, one of them cursing as something heavy landed on his foot. Then, there's a gap back here. My heart stopped. Tunnel, someone said. Fresh tracks. Which way? Downhill. A pause. Then we know where she's going. My blood turned to ice. Downhill. Toward the valley. Toward the small town. Toward the station. The library, the motel, every place I'd thought of as safe, suddenly lit up with crosshairs. They didn't just know the tunnels. They knew the map of my life. I crawled faster. The passage sloped downward, then curved sharply. My knees burned. My palms were raw. The case scraped and bumped behind me, catching on every rock. At one point, the ceiling dipped so low I had to flatten myself against the mud, dragging the case by my fingertips. Dust filled my mouth. My lungs screamed. My vision blurred. But I kept moving because if I stopped, I'd hear the men dropping into the tunnel behind me. If I stopped, I'd have time to think about whether my father was still alive. If I stopped, I'd have time to pull out the last letter and read whatever truth my mother had saved for the end. The truth, she said, would break me. Instead, I shoved the envelope deeper into my jacket and pushed forward into the darkness, chasing the faint promise of air at the other end. Behind me, I heard a sound I knew I'd never forget. Lena's voice, muffled but unmistakable, rising into a scream and then cut off. Like somebody had pressed mute on my entire life. The scream tore straight through me, raw. Strangled, then nothing. Silence so total it felt like the world stopped spinning. No. No, no, no. I whispered, my fingers digging into the dirt as if I could claw my way back to her. Lena, please, please don't be. But I knew. Even before my brain accepted it, my bones knew. They had her. Whether she was alive or dead, she wasn't mine anymore. And if I didn't move, if I didn't run, I'd be next. My eyes flooded, blurring the tunnel ahead. My throat tightened until I couldn't swallow. My whole body shook, grief punching the air out of my lungs in brutal waves. But through the panic, through the horror, through the shattering realization that I might have just lost the only sister I ever had, a single thought pierced everything. If they took Lena, then she gave her life to save mine. I have to make that count. I forced my shaking hands to move, dragging myself forward through the narrowing tunnel. The incline grew steeper, the air colder. Every breath came out ragged, but I didn't stop. Not when my knees buckled. Not when the walls scraped my skin. Not when rocks sliced into my palms. Not when the tunnel groaned from the weight above, dust raining down like the earth was warning me it might collapse. I kept crawling, kept moving, because stopping meant dying. And I hadn't earned that yet. After what felt like forever, minutes or years, I couldn't tell. The tunnel widened slightly. The air pushed against my face, fresh and icy, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. A draft, a way out. I pushed harder until my hand hit open air. My elbow slipped forward, my body following until suddenly I was spilling out of the earth like a shaken animal, collapsing onto damp leaves. I lay there on my side, chest heaving, tears mixing with dirt on my face. Night had fallen. Stars pricked through the dark canopy, pale and cold. Crickets murmured. The forest had gone still again, like nothing violent had ever echoed through it. The tunnel exit was hidden beneath a fallen log covered in moss and roots, nearly invisible unless you were searching for it, which meant they'd find it eventually. I crawled out completely, dragging the metal case with me, and shoved branches over the opening until it blended naturally with the forest floor. My entire body felt like it was made of knives. My throat burned from swallowed sobs. My hands and knees were raw and bleeding. I hugged myself tightly for a moment, letting the grief shake through me. Dad, Lena, both gone. Both because of me. Or maybe both because of my mother. I bit down on my lip hard enough to taste blood. The letter inside my jacket suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Just holding it made my chest squeeze, like touching something sacred and forbidden. The paper was worn, soft at the edges, like my mother had handled it too many times before deciding she couldn't keep it, or couldn't risk keeping it. My name, just the N, stared up at me. A tear fell onto the envelope, darkening the paper. I wanted so badly to rip it open right there, to know the truth, to understand why all of this was happening, to see her handwriting again, hear her voice in my head, feel like she was with me even for a few stolen seconds. But something stopped me, a whisper of instinct, a lesson she taught me long before I understood why. Her voice saying, never open the final piece unless you're safe. And I wasn't safe, not even close. I shoved the letter back into my jacket and clutched the case tighter. Okay. I whispered to myself. Okay, Naomi, think. You need shelter. You need a plan. You need to not fall apart right now. I wiped my face with my sleeve and staggered to my feet. The forest stretched around me like a maze of shadows. I had no idea which direction I'd crawled toward. No phone, no map, no father, no sister, just me, my mother's secrets, and the people who wanted to bury both. A branch snapped far behind me. Every muscle in my body went rigid. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, searching. They were already out of the tunnel.
Oh, God.
I breathed, backing away quietly. Branches cracked again. Closer. Then a voice, low, calm, terrifyingly confident. She's close. I can feel it. I didn't recognize the voice, but I didn't have to. Everything in me screamed, run. So I ran through the dark, through branches that ripped my arms, through roots that tried to trip me, through the echoing sound of my own heartbeat slamming against my skull. I ran until my lungs burned so badly I wanted to scream, until my legs threatened to buckle and give up. I ran because the alternative was stopping, and stopping meant becoming another ghost in the woods. At some point, the forest thinned, and a faint glow appeared between the trees. Orange. Flickering, I slowed, panting, trembling, peering through the branches. A fire, a small one, controlled, burning inside a circle of stones in what looked like an abandoned campsite. There were 2 logs positioned as benches, a rusted metal kettle, and a tarp tied between 2 trees. Someone had been here recently. The fire was still alive. Was it them? A trap or something else? I crouched behind a fallen tree, clutching the metal case, watching the flames dance. Then I heard it. A soft sound. Coughing. Weak. Feminine. I froze. That can't be... I whispered. I inched closer, stepping lightly, my breath misting in the cold air. Someone was lying beneath the tarp, wrapped in a blanket, moving. Alive. I lifted the corner of the tarp with shaking fingers, and the world stopped. It felt like the earth tilted sideways, like gravity dropped out beneath me, because lying beneath that tarp, pale, bruised, barely conscious, was Lena. My breath hitched so hard it hurt. Lena. How? Oh my God, Lena. Her eyes fluttered open, barely. She swallowed, voice a ghost of itself. Told you. She coughed painfully. Mom trained me too. A sob ripped out of me as I fell to my knees. You're alive, I choked. You're alive, how? She winced, gripping my wrist weakly. No time. She whispered. They're dividing up. 2 are following your trail. The other 3, they're headed for town. My blood ran cold. Town. Where I'd grown up. Where people knew me. Where the library, the diner, the motel, the only working bus stop were. Where Mom's old workplace was. Where innocent people still slept. What are they looking for? I asked, voice cracking. Lena's eyes flicked to my jacket. The letter? She rasped. And the last person who can read it. I grabbed her hand, desperate. Lena, when I open it, what am I going to find? What did Mom hide in there? She looked at me with something like sorrow and love and warning. Not what, she said. Ooh, before I could ask, branches snapped in the darkness. Footsteps, fast, close, too close. Lena's eyes widened. Go, she whispered urgently. No, I'm not leaving you. You have to, she coughed. If you don't, everything he died for, it ends here. Tears streamed down my face. I'll come back for you, I swore. You better, she whispered. Then she pushed me weakly, her last bit of strength. Run, know me? So I did. I ran again into the trees, clutching the case, the letter pressed to my chest, My heart breaking for the father I lost, the sister I almost lost, and the truth waiting like a loaded gun inside an unopened envelope. And behind me, voices exploded into the clearing. Over here. She was here. I ducked behind a tree. Another voice answered. Forget the injured one. Find the girl. We need the letter? My pulse hammered. They were close. They wouldn't stop. They'd chase me for as long as it took, because my mother didn't just leave me secrets. She left me a target,